The police were sent to the home of this shooter, Mr. Cruz, 36 times. The FBI was warned 2 times. He was expelled from school. It is, do you know that there's a leftist who tweeted out a series of tweets saying that this illustrates how adoption is a mistake? When a woman wants to abort a child, she knows there's a good reason. Instead of putting the child up for adoption, let the woman abort. If this kid had been aborted, this wouldn't have happened yesterday. And that is passing for reasoned discourse on the humans who are known as Twitter. So anyway, police were sent to this guy's house 36 times. The FBI was warned 2 times. He was expelled from school. There were plenty of people who knew this guy's potential. They knew that he was unbalanced. They knew that he was seriously in bad shape. Despite all of that, what is the media making this about? They're making this about Trump and the NRA. And whenever you start bringing the NRA into this, you politicize it. And anybody who thinks that the student marches are not political is missing the point. They are certainly political because you start bashing the NRA and blaming them. Hello, politics. Because what becomes the objective? The objective becomes the NRA and gun control, not solving issues or problems like this. Then you throw Trump into it. That's getting political. It's not about solving the problem. Does anybody think that Trump would stand in the way of school marshals or private conceal and carry or agreeing with resignations from anybody at the FBI or local police? Would he stand in the way of that? Probably not. Leftists, progressives, Democrats, call them what you want. They are opportunists. And they are playing emotional, manipulative games with anybody they can get away with it, including, I think, some of the students, millions of other people, whipping people into a frenzy for the purposes of what? Advancing a political agenda. Just like Ferguson, Missouri, just like Baltimore, just like, if you want to talk about killing and people dying, you talk about Chicago and the murder rate there, but they won't let you bring that up. Nope, you can't bring that. That had nothing to do with it. It makes you wonder what the real objective is. There are ways to deal with this, and none of them are on the table. And yet those ideas on the table are projected and portrayed as the only possible solutions. And it always is about what? Somehow reducing, what the ultimate objective is, let's just cut to the chase. The ultimate objective of the anti-NRA, pro-gun control crowd is one thing: the confiscation of every weapon owned in this country. That's nirvana. And anything short of that will not be satisfactory. A lot of people are emotionally attached to the Florida shooting, and I am too. I mean, I totally understand how emotion conquers reason. And in fact, it's quite natural. Emotion is the first thing that happens. It's the first thing you feel. Reason takes time. Reason is a very plodding, sometimes unexciting result that takes some application of time and thought, whereas emotion is just immediate. And most people trust their emotions. Most people believe in them. Most people never stop to think their emotions would betray them. And most people do not give it a second thought that their emotions might be the result of manipulation. Just the emotion is so powerful, so strong. And so when you have an incident like we had, it's quite understandable, the emotional reaction. It's got to stop. Why does it happen? It's got to stop. And then when somebody agrees with your emotional reaction and proposes something along the lines of it, agreement, it's almost automatic. And yet that's the process that repeats with no solution ever. And the definition, the obvious illustration of no solution is it keeps happening. It keeps happening over and over and over again. And if any of you doubt that this is entirely political on the part of the left, open your eyes. May not want to. You may not want to go down that road. You may want to stay where your emotions are what comfort you, where your emotions are what guide you. Most people wish to do that, by the way, because, as I say, most people don't distrust their emotions. How many of you have heard, and it's been in the news, that the NRA trained the Florida shooter? Have you seen those stories? Well, they're out there, and they're all over social media. And they're put there by a bunch of leftists who are trying to politicize this and move forward their political agenda. They're not immersed in their emotion. Their emotion, if anything, is excitement over the possibility here. Remember what Wayne LaPierre said way, way back in the 90s after such an event like this? He said, I'm convinced that President Clinton is comfortable with a certain level of violence. That is one heck of a charge, folks. That is one heck of an allegation. And I'm here to tell you that there wasn't what you would think an expected angry response to that from the Clinton White House or anywhere. Now, maybe it was because they don't want to spend any more time necessary acknowledging the existence of the NRA or anything that might give credence to the NRA. But I was stunned at the lack of angry response from the Clinton administration, Clinton himself, and other supporters in the drive-by media. And what LaPierre was saying was that there's a certain, we have a society. People die, people get killed, people have car accidents. Unfortunate things happen. You can't stop death. You cannot stop accidents. You can't stop a number of things that cause people to die. And so LaPierre's point was that there's a calculation made that a certain level of it is accepted because it helps advance an agenda. So when you see stories, Florida shooter trained by the NRA, the Florida gunman's classmates just revealed the NRA paid for his marksmanship training. Florida shooter competed on NRA marksmanship team. Think Progress, a Bible in the American left. The NRA donated $10,000 to help train the Parkland shooting suspect to use a rifle. The thing is, none of this is true. Not a word of it is true, but it's all over social media. And I'll guarantee you many of the students at the high school have seen it, and they believe it. Why, Think Progress wouldn't lie when the Internet wouldn't lie. The Internet is air and water to young people. The Internet is their life. They have implicit trust in it. So you might conjure a picture. These headlines. Florida shooter competed on NRA marksmanship team. The Florida gunman's classmates just revealed the NRA paid for his marksmanship training. The students in a story revealed the NRA paid for his marksmanship. So you would be forgiven if you conjure an image where the NRA is on campus and sponsoring marksmanship contests and training seminars. And that's exactly what they want you to think. But the NRA was nowhere near. The NRA had nothing to do with any of this. The NRA simply is not part of this story. And the AP, by the way, is right in there promulgating this fake news. Now, there was a marksmanship program at the school, but it was not run by the NRA. It was run by the Army Junior ROTC. And the guns were not rifles. They were air-powered pellet guns. Now, the NRA donated to the Army Junior ROTC to operate the program and to purchase equipment, but they didn't sponsor it. They didn't participate in it. They didn't teach anybody anything. They weren't on campus. Here's a paragraph or two. The troubled teen, authorities say killed 17 people at a Florida high school, excelled in an air rifle marksmanship program supported by a grant from the NRA, part of a multi-million-dollar effort by the gun group to support youth shooting clubs and other programs. Nicholas Cruz was wearing a maroon shirt with a logo from the Army Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School when he was arrested Wednesday shortly after the shooting. Former cadets told the AP that Cruz was a member of the varsity marksmanship team that trained together after class and traveled to other area schools to compete. The story does not say the Army was running the training program. The story says the NRA was. The NRA was not there. Now, this is how emotions are manipulated. This is how fake news is planted and how it blooms and how it grows. And this is just one example. In the meantime, social services investigated Nicholas Cruz 2 years ago. You look at the picture. Look at the picture that everybody was able to put together of this guy after the event, and it makes you wonder, how did they know so much? You know what it reminded me of? Shortly after 9/11, they were able to give us the names and the 6-month previous timeline of all 19 hijackers. It blew my mind. The day after 9/11, we knew the names of all of the hijackers. We knew where they were from. We knew when they got into the country. We knew where they trained. We knew what they trained. We knew that they had gone to flight school. They didn't want to be taught how to land. All they wanted to learn was how to take off. We knew everything. But we didn't, for some reason, have the ability to realize what we knew or stop it.